What's up, Factorio, and welcome back to another YouTube episode. Today, we've got a lot going on. There's been a lot of changes. I went through a couple different revisions on a couple different systems before I was finally happy with stuff, so I kept recording. I was like, you know what, that's not good. I want to change it, so I had to do that. Anyway, before I start rambling, let's just jump into things. As you can see, the sorter is actually gone, and there's a good reason for that. Yeah, so Sunder QQQ had some thoughts on the first sorter I made, the little arrowhead type deal there, and it got me thinking about the design that I had for that one, and particularly how it was limited. So if we come back to Factorio here, and I guess I can pull up. So this is the old sorter we have, and if you look at each set of splitters, so a set would be a splitter with each ore on it, right? So each set of splitters can handle one belt's worth of throughput. Now, we're not going to really be filling this belt full like this when these flotation cells are running and we're processing ore. It's never really going to be packed jammed full like this. We probably wouldn't have any problems with the sorters for a while, but it is limited in the fact that I can't expand it really. It's a 2-lane sorter, and that's all it really is. So I've designed a new one, a modular one that I can stack endlessly, and I can also add things onto the end of rather easily. So here it is. So we can just come along, and if we need an additional line sorted, we can just pop one down there, and they're modular, so I can go with something like this. Let me turn off my RoboPort, and if we just line up the top top splitter there and just stack them like this, then yeah, we can just do that endlessly. And we can come down to the end as well, and I could just do like copy that, you know, stack it onto the end here if I wanted to. Yeah, so that's our new filter, or a new sorter. It's just, but anyway, yeah, so I've got the 4-lane already pre-set up here. So if I just smack it down right there, we can let our bots do the things that they do best and build. Oh God, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I'm gonna cry. Diamonds for everybody. Now, one thing I will say about this sorter and sort of sorting like this in general is that we're still going to have only one output line on each of the ores. It's like our furnaces have to process the ores as fast as they're coming in, otherwise we're going to back up. But I don't want to be limited on the input side of the sorter. Like, I don't want these things starved for ore because we can't sort it fast enough. That's really the goal here in expanding this sorter. And I do have, yeah, I've got sodium hydroxide being filtered off even here, and I plan on bringing that up to the aluminum because aluminum uses sodium hydroxide. So we could potentially use this bus here to filter multiple other things if needed. But currently we're just filtering lime from our wastewater processing over here and sodium hydroxide. Another thing I did to make room for this sorter and to realign things is I deleted and moved my furnaces, but I think this is going to be the final position for it. As you can see, I've got belts ran, I've got some furnaces going, trying to figure out how I'm going to set up the plate smelting stuff. Another thing I did was, let me actually bring my bus down. I'm not going to connect the sorter yet. I do have sapphire coming in though. But yeah, so I did run I've got a train with just a single cart here picking up sapphire ore for me, and it is connected to all of my chunkers. As you saw, I have ore built up and stuff, but I'm not quite ready to unleash the beast, as it were. So we've got a new power setup as well, modified to use only loaders and splitters aside from the wood block production. Also, I don't remember the ratios exactly on the old stuff, but I think it's actually 4 algae farms to 1 wood block assembly machine. So I've modified it so the wood blocks are actually at the end of the line, so I can expand that further. And then obviously we're going to want to be expanding this to just be able to do that. And then we can remove all this other pipe that doesn't need to be here. Some other changes to some previous systems is I've added a flare stack on the chlorine side of things and a flare stack on the nitrogen side of things as well, because what's happening is we were using all of our oxygen because, well, we have a lot of oxygen demand and a lot of hydrogen demand, but not so much. Actually, we don't have tons of hydrogen demand right now, but I think we will eventually. But yeah, the nitrogen and the chlorine the demand on those is just not very much. So yeah, I've added a flare stack to both those, just like the saline needed the clarifier. The main gases out of these systems that we're looking for are oxygen and hydrogen, and the chlorine and nitrogen are kind of just byproducts that we need, but that's not the main goal of these. So another thing I've done is over here, following the theme of my ingot smelt previously, I actually had the loaders. I had just a single loader unloading from this requester chest, which obviously doesn't work, right? We need two of them. So I've just removed the loaders and put inserters there instead of trying to redo the whole system. We've also got some automation here. So I set up the green and red wire production over here, and I didn't really set up a line for it. I just kind of plopped it where I could. So I'm making rubber off my resin line here. I'm just dumping some resin into a furnace to burn into rubber, which comes up to this machine to make these base wires. I don't know what they're called, they're the black ones. And I'm just pulling tin copper wire off my electronic circuit line to make those. And then we're making a stack of both red and green. But yeah, since I got those, we can now connect to the circuit network. You can see these are used to connect the machines to the circuit network using left mouse button. That's important. Use left mouse button. Do not use right mouse button. If you use right mouse button, something very, very bad will happen. But yeah, so I've got a wire connected to this first belt right here, and then we've got it connected to the requester chest. And I've got the conditions set to coal less than 100. So if there's less than 100 coal in this chest, turn that on, you can see the belt will activate, allowing more coal to flow in. And then it stops once we have 100. The reason we need that on here is otherwise coal would just continuously flow into this chest and fill it up, and we wouldn't be able to put the empty filters that get brought back up here. Let's go ahead and queue up some more research. Do robotic attack drones. That sounds fun. Let's just queue up all the robotic attack drones. I may not need this many sapphire and sturtite floats, so I may have to change some of these. This may be overkill. We may just be getting too much iron from that. I have also came in and upgraded some of these furnaces to tier 3. So we've got, yeah, some tier 3 blast furnaces here. I think some of the chemical furnaces are tier 3 as well, or processors. I don't have access to the next tier yet. So yeah, I just want to process iron and copper and like all the main ones as fast as possible. So we're upgrading those when we can. I've also added a steel ingot production down here, which is, yeah, it is hooked up actually. You can see I was running the line for a while. I've got quite a bit of ingots stored up right now for just sapphire. So yeah, we've got our steel furnace set up, and we're making steel ingots, so we can now make cobalt steel once we get our production going, which is going to be amazing. And then I've also redesigned both the greenhouses and the charcoal slash coke production here. So you can see we've just got two furnaces burning wood, and it loops around into the crusher. One crusher crushing coal is going to be plenty for all of this. So we've got tier 3 liquefiers producing coke, and then we've got another 2. These last 2 producing coke are for carbons. And here's our new wood system. It's pretty much the same. We're using loaders for everything aside from the saw blades, I guess. And the way I solved the saw blades was, so I've got a splitter on the end of the output line for the wood. Since I'm using loaders and I'm not filtering them, they're just depositing everything, right? So the wood and the saw blades are both getting deposited onto this belt. We're filtering the saw blades into this chest, which we have a logic wire connected to this belt, and it's set to less than 1. So if I have less than 1 saw blade in this chest, this belt will kick on, allowing more saw blades through. That way we continuously process the saw blades already in the system before we're adding more to the system. Yeah, we also modified this a little bit. I added a tier 4 assembly machine for the fertilizer, and I added a second composter onto this system. I should probably talk about the wastewater system. So we've got because we're processing so much sulfur water right now, I've got an entire half side of this belt dedicated to sulfur. So everything else is going to be deposited on the other side. And we've got both belts joined up into one here going across this underground. So this is going to be feeding all of the processing for byproducts. And I've just used a filter or a splitter to filter off one of the components, which in this case it's salt. We've got a little storage chest here. That way we're always pulling salt off this line. We've done the same for sodium nitrate. I've also set up 3 chemical plants processing sulfur into sulfur dioxide gas. And then we've got 3 chemical plants processing sulfur dioxide gas into sulfuric acid. This fourth chemical plant is actually for one of the byproducts of processing fluoric ore, and that is the calcium sulfate. So this takes this calcium sulfate, gives us sulfur dioxide gas and lime. So we're depositing that lime onto our output belt, which is right here on the right side. And then so the fluoric ore being processed into hydrogen fluoride gas and fluoric wastewater. And we are flare stacking everything, and there is a reason for that. What is the reason?
I don't know.
Oh, I think the main reason is that we're generating so much sulfur, and this one clarifier isn't enough to delete all of the excess wastewater. So if we're deleting it in the form of a gas as well, then we can continuously process, because I don't want these waste lines for the flotation cells backing up, so we want to make sure that we're processing that wastewater as quick as possible. Sodium nitrate just needs compressed air, and then we've already been through this.
Flashback.
See, what do you actually give me? Nitrogen monoxide and nitrogen dioxide, and then I can break down the nitrogen monoxide into nitrogen dioxide, and then we're just pumping them both into a flare stack.
End of flashback.
For the last one, the salt, there's actually multiple things you can do with salt. I've decided on this particular one because, well, the first one I was going to do was actually hydrochloric acid. Yeah, we make salt, we take salt, sulfuric acid, we can make hydrochloric acid with it, and the reason I'm not doing that now, I switched over to the chlorine system, is because I can't flare stack the hydrochloric acid. So this line would eventually back up with salt once the Jack's tank filled up, right? And I wasn't using it. And then it would start to back up over here, and we'd get backing up everywhere. So I wanted the chlorine system so I could actually flare stack the chlorine and continue to process, keep this line moving. Let me come back up and check my power production. So I disconnected all the power stuff from the bottom because it actually ran out of wood blocks here, because I wasn't generating crushed stone for such a long time, but we are starting to build up some more. So I think I can connect the power to the south as long as I keep the research going. Then I shouldn't have any issues with backing up, aside from the iron, because that just backs up non-stop. So I'm actually going to come back over to so we're just using iron ore now, which means we're going to have to use a lot more of our iron ingots to create the same amount of iron plates that we were creating prior. Let's just keep the research going. Oh wait, here's the next tier of refining. I can take chunks and oh, look at that. I'm actually going to need a lot of sulfuric acid, because I can take chunks, turn them into sapphirite crystals with sulfuric acid. So I'm probably going to need a lot of sulfuric acid. It's a good thing I'm storing a lot, right? Yeah, so essentially we just take the chunks and turn them into crystals. How many can we process? We can do 1 chunk per second. That's really not fast. Well, we're not going to be able to do this. Why don't I already have this researched, man? I might have to redesign the entire chunk system. I don't know. I might have to redo just re-add in the hydrochloric acid system back into the wastewater system. And maybe we'll set up some logic to where if we're full of hydrochloric acid, then it starts processing into chlorine instead. And then we take those crystals in the sorters instead of the chunks, and we get, wow. So we're getting more iron ore. Oh, and it's giving us titanium ore as well. So essentially they just give us more ore. So each tier of production is going to give us more various ores. So what I'm thinking for the smelters is, so we're going to have a induction furnace set up for every recipe. So for iron, so the molten iron here, we've got one for just iron ingots. We've got another one for manganese, another one for silicone, another one for chrome nickel, another one for cobalt nickel, another one for chrome nickel. So I've got one set up for each recipe, and we'll set up some logic. So this is our silicone, right? So I can run I can run a logic wire from the silicone storage, our ingot storage here, and I can take it to, well, not this, because you can't connect wires to these, but I can take it to the belt inputting the ingots, right? A wire can't reach. Okay, I think I need like poles. And I haven't really messed with Factorio automation too much. well, the logic systems. So I'm not sure exactly how it works. I think we just run the automation along the power lines. Okay, and then we take this belt, connect it to that power line, and we say if our silicon ingots are greater than, oh, I don't know, maybe like, how much can these store? We got 256 stack, 256 slots. Each slot is 200 ingots. So we can store up 51,200 ingots in each silo. So let's come here and say if our silicon ingots are greater than like 30,000, and we'll have one of these set up for each ingot. For this one, we'll have it set on chrome. For this one, we'll have it set on cobalt, etc., right? So that way, if our storage in here ever hits above 30k ingots, as we've set here, then this belt's going to kick on and allow the silicone and iron to flow into this furnace, and then we're going to be consuming silicon ingots because we're building up too many, right? We don't want these warehouses to ever fill up, because that means our silicone ore line is going to back up because we can't process the ore. So we want the system to be turning off and on based on how many ingots we have, and I also want to add some storage into these systems. I don't know how much. I'm thinking 2 of these tanks might be too much. Yeah, 1 tank is probably plenty. So we'll store up a little bit of molten iron, and then we can really run our casting machines kind of wherever we want. Yeah, I'm thinking just like this is probably fine, and we can move the undergrounds. I don't know why I did undergrounds belts here. Oh, I know why. I was thinking I would need to unload these, but these don't need unloading because all they produce is molten. What the furnaces are probably going to look like, and this is going to be for each one. So as you can see, some of them only have 1 recipe, so I don't really have a whole lot of options, but iron is really great for that. And I guess we've got steel as well, which we're going to be able to make now because we're going to actually have steel ingots. So when we're melting in the molten steel for steel plates, we can actually use multiple different metals for that. So the drain on our iron to make steel isn't going to be as large as you would think it normally would be. I feel like I didn't do anything but talk this episode, but you know what? Maybe I can fix that in editing. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.